Oh, do you want to lead us off this time?
Yeah, so we've got a player that's playing with 2 screws, and he tells us it's fun out there. What does that say about the run of play? The
I think if
flow?
he had a screw in his head, a screw loose in his head, he'd probably still think it was fun. He's a kid that always has a positive outlook on life in general. When you get to know him, non-soccer level, he's well-rounded. He went to a couple of good schools, good universities. He talks about bigger issues, but he's passionate about soccer. And so you can tell the joy that he plays with, sometimes the determination and a little bit of, reckless. I was going to say a little bit, mischievous maybe, in his play sometimes. But, he does what he can to help the team win, and coaches love that.
And how important is that? I'm not mischievous, but let's put another word: creativity in each of your players.
It's creative. Look, you can go over the edge there. Like, the thing that always rubs us the wrong way as coaches is if he's got a player facing the wrong direction and Paul's putting pressure on him, and then they foul him, and then it's an easy out. Like the high ball sometimes where it's a 50-50 and he uses his body and he does some of those things, I'm okay with that because that's smart. But if the player's already going in a negative direction or you've got him kind of pinned in, then he needs to back off a little bit and see if we can, win the ball in a different fashion. But I don't blame him for that. It just shows that he's into the game.
JP was able to be out here a little bit yesterday. How is he kind of coming along?
It's a little slower than maybe I first reported. They're going to take that a little bit slower. He's doing okay. I mean, Albert was here. Okay, there's some guys that are coming back, but might be a little slower than I previously mentioned. JP, I don't want to put a time limit on it right now. Next week, when we ramp him up a little more, will be a good test. Because right now it's kind of everything just kind of easy for him to get stability and all that. But next week we'll push him a little more, and then we can get a better sense.
Slower in the sense of still hopeful, like postseason.
Yes, for sure. Both Albert, JP, Jordan, all before the end of the year. Yeah.
The vibes around the camp, even in the small shorter game like we just saw, they're really elevated and they're really exciting. Is that because of all the positional competition, the moment of the team? What do you attribute that to?
So match day -1 is, a fun day. Usually they're in good moods, good spirits. All of the tactical work is done. So what Andy Rose came up with was a match day -1 competition where the teams change every match day -1, and they get a point if they're, they get points. They get 3 points if they're on the winning team, 1 point if it's, I think if they're lost, they get 1 point, and if they go through the year, we tally up the points, and it's just spice things up a little bit on what sometimes is a, little bit fun day. It makes them a little bit sharper, more concentrated. We used to do that with, playing Americans versus the rest of the world, or old guys versus young guys. We used to figure out ways how to make it competitive, but this is maybe a better way. It gets them all fired up.
Stefan Frei was part of that team, a couple of big saves there. What have you seen from him this week going into this travel day?
Good. He's good. Steph's good.
If we made a decision on the goalkeeping,
Yeah.
you're not going to tell us. So, but I will ask.
He's ready to play. He's ready to play. I have to manage Andrew, who's played very, very well. And I have to manage Steph coming back from a significant head injury. So I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try and dip my toe in the water with Steph, continue to let Andrew play some games. So how we do that to close out the year certainly is going to be interesting. And it's a real conversation.
Andrew's still going to get the Leagues Cup tournament,
Yes.
though.
Yeah.
With trying to manage, is there any insight or that you can give us, just a little bit of a look in the coach's room of what that kind of looks like when you're deciding, who to play when everybody is playing very well right now? Like, what are those?
Well, those are challenging conversations, and a lot of times, we have, pretty open and honest conversations. I try and draw information out of all the particulars, the coaches obviously, but then sports science guys, the medical staff, make sure everything's good as far as players' health is concerned. We go to the sports science guys to make sure, the overuse question you guys have asked me a lot about Obed and Christian, playing extended minutes, and how do we manage Peppo with his injury history, and stuff like that goes into the decision. And then we compile all the information that we can from different sources. And then at the end of the day, a lot of times I might lean a certain way, but then I usually like to sleep on it, Jada. I like to wake up the next morning and see if there's anything's changed or anything's different. How I feel sometimes with the data goes along with what I feel in here. And it's a complicated thing at times when you have a bunch of good players. It makes my job harder. So I want to make sure I consider all factors and give each player a fair shot.
How much have you grown in that process? I know, from young Brian to now, is it that you're like, oh, let me sleep on it, or
Well, look, in the years past, in the USL days, there wasn't as much information. Right now, coaches can make better decisions because we have more information, and making sure that you solicit, opinions from your coaching staff is critical. And I've been blessed with, starting with Ante and Ezra and, Gonzo, Jimmy, Preki, Andy, Freddie. I've had Tommy. I've had a really, really good staff over the years, and they challenge me, and I appreciate that.
Because
Let's go.
Well, I just wanted to know if it's more, if there have been more heated conversations this year because of it. Like, you got 26 goals lately.
Well, the conversations, when you say heated, it's a funny adjective. Preki and I are the two old guys, and we've known each other for a long time, so we can be combative, I would say. We're both kind of stubborn, and we both have a strong opinion. I think Freddie's kind of the calm guy in the room. Tommy's got a real strong opinion sometimes. Andy can, pitch in when he wants, but it's all very respectful. It's all good conversations, I would say.
because of Minnesota's style of play and their ability to just absorb pressure and play off the counter, would you say that this is the toughest challenge you've had since after the Club World Cup?
They're a good team. They're a very good team. They've had a great season so far. They took a loss in the Leagues Cup, and then Colorado came in and took points off them. So he's got to figure some of those moments out, because nobody's perfect over the course of MLS, and there's ebbs and flows. And he's done a good job so far, and I give him a lot of credit because he's put his team in a very good system based on his players, what he thinks they're best at, and it's been working so far.
When you look at that match, when you first played them, that also was the protest match.
Yeah.
So, and afterward, there was a lot of conversation as far as distraction, yada yada. So, do you take away anything because of that, like the way that you guys played or the way that you lost that because of that?
Well, that wasn't our best performance, and then the Vancouver game was not our best. But we've moved past that, and I'm not going to say, oh, Minnesota beat us because the players were distracted. Minnesota beat us fair and square. Whether our guys were distracted, not distracted, they said they weren't distracted, doesn't matter. They won the game fair and square, 3-2, and it was a good game. And the goals came in the second half. I thought there were some preventable goals from our point. They would say that one of their goals was an own goal. So it was an exciting match.
When you look at Osasa de Rosario, the success he's had translated into the training field, have you seen him built on that and continue to grow to be a
growing.
contributor?
Look, he's growing. He's still got a ways to go, but he has good starting points. You know, I think when he gets on the field, I think the three center backs in Minnesota are going to be faced with a different beast. They might be expecting Musovski, you know, might be Saze. You know, we played, I think even it wasn't Jesus, but, you know, whoever we play, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that matchup goes because their three center backs are very good.
Thanks, Coach.